Where is my baby? Finding yourself and your spouse. Have you ever wondered why men often refer to their lovers as baby? Babies, as we all know, are helpless and completely dependent on their caregivers. They abandon themselves on them and have no care about what their caregivers are up to as long their needs and wants are satisfied. They have so much trust in their caregivers, so they have no fear as long as they are around. There is a certain endearing innocence about babies that make us enjoy being at their beck and call. They also have this vulnerability about them which makes us commit to protecting them and providing for them even at the cost of our own welfare. Their smiles of appreciation just warm our hearts tremendously and draw us into greater commitment towards them. A familiar story. In a lot of ways, men perceive their girl lovers as having these baby-like qualities which motivates them to shower them with so much love. Young women share many of these qualities with babies. The ladies appear so tender and frail and vulnerable. They trust their men and perceive them as knowledgeable and experienced. They look up to them in all things, laugh at their jokes, and revel in the queenly treatment that gets bestowed on them. They see these men go to great lengths to meet not only their needs but also their wants, even to the detriment of their own welfare. They would defend their men against any form of verbal attack in the belief that these men are noble and full of only goodness. The men cannot but admire them and want to cuddle them at every opportunity as they shower them with sweet words. The two create their own world of fantasy and bliss and think of nothing else when they are away from each other apart from things that have to do with each other. Finally, they get married, envisaging a life of blissfulness and peace. Unfortunately, this hope soon evaporates as the reality of marriage begins to dawn. After some years, this frail and tender girl has become a mature woman who has grown in physical strength as a result of strenuous domestic chores and caregiving to babies and husband. Her levels of stress have grown because she now has to shoulder many more responsibilities than she has been previously used to as a single lady, which leave her little time for fun and recreation and outings. This higher level of stress has left her irritable and short-fused, and she no longer finds her man's jokes funny and his hugs and kisses now mean little, and she has become unresponsive to them. She has learned so much and has become so knowledgeable that she seldom has a need to look to her man for direction. She is now beginning to also wear the trousers in the house, as she is now taking initiative and doing things her man is reluctant to do but which she views as necessary. The unquestioning trust that she used to have for him has transformed into suspicion-filled vigilance marked by frequent queries that he must answer and secret peeks at stuff on his phone. She now sees through his lies and half-truths, and she cannot just keep quiet about them. She no longer sees the things the man does for her as privileges but a right which manifests through her diminished show of gratitude, even at times when he does the extraordinary for her. In spite of all this, she is wondering why he has changed so much from the man who used to adore her and shower her with so much attention and love. Why he does not call her and why he stays away from home for such long hours, she wonders. She herself has lost interest in sex as she is often tired from much work. Why have his I love yous and words of admiration dried up and the intimacy become bland? He looks distracted and she seems to no longer be the center of his life, and that makes her uncomfortable. There appears to her so much on his mind that she is dying to be privy to, and which makes her feel as if there is an ongoing conspiracy being cooked up designed for her hurt. The man, on the other hand, is confused as to what has happened to his baby. She is no longer what she used to be. She now behaves more like his mother than his baby. He acknowledges that the exciting feelings of romantic love have waned, but she is not making things any easier by her constant nagging and complaints. She used to trust him so much, but now everything he says gets taken in with large pinches of salt, and she is now making him out to be a liar of some sort, and he is very concerned about that. He is experiencing a lot of stress himself, having to cater for the family and struggling to make ends meet. He is wondering whether he should not have delayed entering into this marriage, as the responsibilities he has to shoulder financially are much more than he bargained for. Daily upkeep money for the family, rent, transportation, school fees, etc. are all taking a toll on him. He is no longer the happy-go-lucky guy he used to be, having become frequently moody or absent-minded. He now counts on his evenings out with his boys for some joy out of life. At home, Madam seems to have taken charge, making important decisions on the family's behalf without consulting him and accusing him of being too laid back and unresponsive when issues arise. She has become just too stubborn for his liking, no longer revering him but rather talking to him with so much confidence, the origins of which he does not know. When he tries to win her over or soften her down with a surprise gift, he only gets a tasteless thank you for his trouble. In bed, she always has one reason or another why she cannot have intimacy, and when she does, it turns out to be a one-sided affair in which he has to do all the work. Worst of all, she now is complaining that he does not love her any longer, suspecting that he is being unfaithful and casting insinuations in that direction endlessly. Every smudge on his shirt has to be a lady's face powder or lipstick. He dares not look at another woman for more than a few seconds while she no longer takes interest in her appearance and is reluctant to go on outings because she is always tired or busy. Since she had her first child, she has piled on a lot of weight and he is not allowed to even comment on that. In general, she has become overly sensitive, talkative, easily irritated. He has therefore decided to keep his mouth shut and to keep his thoughts to himself. He therefore speaks little when he is at home, and even such talk is about mundane things. The issues that bother him have become his alone to brood over because airing them would attract plenty talk and lots of questions and pressure to get to the bottom of them, when he would rather take his time and handle them in his own time. His fun-loving, ever-laughing baby is now nowhere to be found. Although it may not apply in all marriages, the scenario described above is a theme that has run across several marriages and continues to be reenacted. Wives and husbands are confused about why they seem to be pulling away from each other. Each one feels like he or she is the victim and the other the villain in this love-gone sour tango. They therefore blame each other either verbally, inwardly, or through their actions. If nothing is done, the couple continues to get estranged from each other more and more until there's no love feeling left in any of them for the other. This does not need to be the case, as there are things that can be done by both parties to keep the fire of love burning. Finding yourself. The first thing we need to do as individuals to improve our marriage outcomes is to see our own selves holistically. As individuals, we are more than the image of ourselves which we see in the mirror, our looks. Even in front of the mirror we have blind spots, as we do not see everything of ourselves. Some people may relate to us on the basis of our physical appearance, but we have a choice as to whether to go along with their perceptions and relate to them on that basis, or to dictate the terms of the interaction by bringing to bear on it the fullness of who we are and ensuring that that fullness resonates within your relationships. Who we are is not how people choose to define us or their expectations of us. Neither are we simply representative of our tribe, religion, or political party, or our culture or upbringing. As Stephen Covey intimates, if these were the things that defined us, then we have become just products of things external to us, programmed, like machines, by forces outside of our own selves. It is easy to become so immersed in these external forces, cultural influences, political and social pressures, that we become ignorant of who we truly are and what we are capable of achieving in life when we lose our own mind and submit to a mind which is that of the culture. Unfortunately, because conforming makes us accepted and gives us a sense of belonging, we are happy to do so. But by being conformable, we become reluctant to examine what we have come to accept as how things ought to be and how things ought to be done, and what we have be, and without actually examining whether they are the only ways. When we unquestionably submit ourselves to these cultural dictates, we create a limitation within our minds as to what we are capable of being and of achieving, and we become victims of our external environment rather than architects and creators of our own future. We tend to be intolerable of others' opinions and ways of behaving and critical of them because we see them through our own cultural lenses and also box them up by our own definition of them, giving them no room to maneuver. Conflict becomes the end result. To be defined means to be limited, fixed or put in a box, but as humans we are free entities with the power to choose what we will be and do. As individuals we are thoughtful, independent, creative personalities who cannot be limited by some definition. The Bible in 2 Kings 7-3-4 makes reference to some lepers who refuse to be limited by culturally imposed restrictions. Now there were 4 men with leprosy at the entrance of the city gate. They said to each other, "Why stay here until we die? For if we say, 'We'll go into the city,' the famine is there, and we will die. And if we stay here, we will die. So let's go over to the camp of the Arameans and surrender. If they spare us, we live, if they kill us, then we die." These lepers could have decided to stay under the limitations that defined them as not fit to mingle with people, and took the bold step, first by breaking through the mental restrictions which could have paralyzed any action on their part, and then took a bold decision to enter into the enemy's camp. At the end of the day God used them to destroy their enemies, and they got more food than they could eat. There is so much we could be and do with our relationships, but which is not happening because we allow externalities to limit our minds as to how we could think and what we could possibly do to create desirable outcomes in our marriage. When we dwell on our limitations as imposed by our sociocultural and religious beliefs and expectations of us, we become dependent, seeing ourselves as victims and failing to make the contributions and strides we are capable of. On the other hand, however, the reality that we are greatly influenced by cultural and other factors should open our eyes to the degree to which our assumptions about life, the opposite sex, as well as about those who are not similar to us, etc., and the way in which we see things may be incomplete or flawed. This understanding should make us humble. Knowing that how we think and behave are the result of a culture that existed long before we were born should make us see that we are incomplete and will be better off if we could benefit from insights from the different perspectives of others who have a background that is different from ours. If we are unaware that our own perspective is always limited, we tend to insist on having a way. We become narrow-minded, one-plug and intolerant people who frequently create conflict and have difficulty letting go of offense. On the hand too, when we appreciate our own unique perspective and its valuableness while being aware that it cannot be the only perspective, we are open to taking in fresh perspectives from others and more willing to listen to others and to try to understand them. The more perspectives we are able to take in, the fuller the picture becomes, the more resources are available to us, and the easier it is for us to enjoy fruitful relationships with others. In effect, we are humble because we appreciate the limitations of our own culturally dictated perspectives, but because we are open to the perspectives of others, we feel unlimited and see boundless potential in ourselves, which makes us confident individuals who have self-efficacy and who are therefore not easily moved by challenges. We are more creative this way because it is only when we recognize that we do not have all the answers that we go looking for them, but it is our openness to other perspectives that gives us the confidence to go looking.